Hi everyone, my name's Pieta Valentine. I've written 2 books, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit and The Resident's Rise from a Dementia Unit. Today we're going to be talking about the video techniques of The Resident's Voice. Now, all the techniques are at the back of The Resident's Voice, but I have done these videos as an extra for people who don't tend to read as much. But I have to say at this point, and I have said many times, there is so much to learn prior to going into a dementia unit, both to prepare yourself and to prepare your relative who's going into the dementia unit. That, as well as the room setup, as well as getting to know the facility and the staff and the medications and the charts and all the knowledge you need to know for effective doctor's visits, etc., etc. But so the book, of course, outlines this in detail, in order, constructive order, but I've done these videos for those of you that don't read as much. But I really think both are needed because there's so much to learn. Unless you really do go through these videos and the book descriptions thoroughly of the techniques, positive practical techniques to help your relative, unless you go through it thoroughly, you'll never get the understanding that you need to be able to effectively help your mother or father at a dementia unit, because there is so much to know. I mean, the first thing is for yourself to be orientated. You know, you have to orientate yourself to the unit itself, the routine, the staff, the hierarchy, their roles, the medications, the doctor's visits, the notes, being informed of that, the room setup, the security, I mean, to name a few. So all of that has to be known in depth and detail, because if you don't know it and understand it, you know, you'll just be disorientated yourself. The more we understand, the more knowledge we have, the more reading, the more insight, the more, you know, constructive understanding of all these topics, then you will be in a stable position to be able to be centered yourself and to be able to help your relative, whatever comes up. Because things do come up, you know, on top of all that. So you need a stable base of understanding so that when something extra comes into the equation, like maybe your mother falls, or, you know, one of the other residents attacks her, which we don't want to happen, but that can happen, or there's some event, then if you're stable with knowing the whole routine of the unit and who to go to, what to do, then you'll be able to more easily manage with the situation. But if you don't know the how, why, what of what's going on, it's just too much. You will just become overwhelmed, and people suffer from that. That's why a lot of people are stressed when they go into a unit. They are stressed because they actually don't know how to handle it. So wisdom is power and knowledge is strength. So that's why educating yourself is so important and going into the details. Okay, so let's see. So for example, with the book, here we go. I've got the book here. I'm just going to give some outlines of what's in the book, and these same videos, one video per technique, is in these series of YouTube videos, also on my website, www.pietavalentine.com. Also, I've put the videos on Facebook business page just recently. They're on Instagram and also TikTok. And it's very important that they're on TikTok, because I know, especially in America, and I'm sure probably other places of the world, but I know specifically in America, there's many young people like teenagers, looking after their parents and grandparents, sometimes as sole carers. Now, this is unbelievably difficult work, and these young people need the support. I know they have a supportive community within their own community, in the TikTok community, they support each other really well, and they need to, because it is so stressful. But also techniques to help them and enable them and empower them, especially when it gets to the point that they may have to send their relative into a dementia facility, if they can educate themselves before that point, then they'll be in a much stronger position emotionally, physically, and in every other way to be able to manage when their loved one goes into the facility. So the book, The Resident's Voice, these techniques in here and also in the previous first lot of 20 videos that I did here on YouTube. Okay, so there's so many things to know. Entering the unit, there's so many forms to fill out, lots of forms, and they need to be filled out clearly and in detail, because all the activities in the menu, the diet, the food, according to what you fill out in the forms, will be applied for your family member. So not to miss out anything there. Power of attorney and phone calls. Phone calls are a very difficult equation in the unit. It's often hard to get hold of you. So just make sure that you have your name, phone number, and available times to be called for when your mother wants to, speak to you. Siblings and support of the power of attorney. It's very important that the rest of the family realizes how much work is involved for the power of attorney, being the sole, person who has responsibility for the relative. And in fact, if the power of attorney is finding that it's becoming overwhelming to try to explain to their brothers and sisters how much is involved, because if they haven't worked in a hospital setting or a dementia setting before, chances are they don't know, then it might just be a good idea to get them the book and say, look, read this, and then you'll know what's involved, rather than me having to use all my energy trying to explain to you, which actually I've got already enough on my plate. If you can please read this and then we can work together on it, that's a good idea. Okay, getting to know the staff, that was the previous video. There's a lot on that. Learning curve of first visit and security, the security code, making sure that people don't escape. I've done a previous video on that. It's very important that you don't, you have to know the difference between the relatives and the residents, otherwise you might let someone escape. Medication. It is important to update on medication, like what medication your mother's on, the potential side effects, if you see that she is having side effects or think that she is, knowing what the medication actually is and the dosages, getting the notes, reading about it, finding out about it. So when you go into the doctors, the family visits with the doctor every 3 months, you're informed and you can ask well-informed questions, and then you're more likely to get well-informed answers, and that all helps. The room set up and attire, I've done a couple of videos on this early on, so much involved. Getting the right chair, the right bed, the warmth, the heat, pictures on the wall mum can recognise, the whiteboard, a clock with big numbers on it so she can see it. Warm, comfortable and cosy being the equation. The chair, make sure that chair she can get in, out of and into easily, remembering that the legs get weaker when we get older. And a warm mohair rug, light rug, and a comfy pillow so she can have a rest in the day comfortably. Photograph memory boards, lots of photos, not too small. Make them big and bold so she can see them and enjoy them, talk about them. Books, magazines and bookcases. Bookcases are fabulous. You can put everything on. There's lots of space on a bookcase. And you can put on books, magazines, flowers, anything, because the room's so congested generally. A bookcase is one way of getting away, being able to make some extra space in the place. Make the walkers identifiable. Out of 20 walkers or whatever in the place, put something on it so your mother can recognise it, and so can staff. Whiteboards, recognisable name and number on her door so she can be orientated. That's about 2 videos on room orientation and orientation. I won't go into that, but please go back to that. Good shoes. She needs good shoes, not slippers. Shoes are important. On it goes. Look, there's more in there. I've only covered half of it. But anyway, please, make the effort to educate yourself and upskill and this will help the unit and everyone in it. Thank you.